and welcome back to English Lime. We continue our lessons. So today we're going to talk about modal verbs. Do you remember we learned with you modal verbs in the previous lessons? We learned with you the verbs must, mustn't, can, can't, should, shouldn't. Today we are going to talk about 3 modal verbs. One of them will be must. You already know it. So we will talk about must, mustn't, have to, don't have to, and need, don't need to. So 3 modal verbs with negative forms. So we will start with must and have to because I will compare them. So the first one is must. And number 2 will be have to. Have to. So what does it mean? These verbs must and have to. So we use the verb must, you remember what? When we talk about obligation. So I will write obligation. And let me write the example. Very easy example. I must learn English. So I must learn English. Now, let's go to the verb have to. We use this verb, the verb have to, when we talk about also obligation. So, obligation. You probably think, what is the difference? Must obligation, have to obligation? But this obligation is a bit different. It means that you have obligation, some pressure by law, government, or school. So you know the translation of the verb of the word obligation, right? So what does it mean? Pressure, some kind of pressure by somebody. So we can call it pressure by law, government, or school, or parents, or boss, and etc. So obligation, not simple obligation. Obligation by pressure by law, government, school, parents, boss, etc. I will write the example and then explain it to you. For example, I have to wear a uniform. Let me write it for you. I have to wear a uniform. Do you feel the difference between I must learn English and I have to wear a uniform? Here, you don't want it, but you have to because it's the rule of your job. It's the government rule or boss told you that you have to wear a uniform, right? So in here, it's your decision. We can use the same sentence, the same meaning here. For example, you say, I have to learn English. Let me write it for you. I have to learn English. Or my boss will fire me. So, I have to learn English or my boss will fire me. So what does it mean? Here you say, I must learn. I want it. It's my decision. I must learn English because I want to travel. I want to speak English. So it's my decision, my choice. I want it, right? And here, I have to learn English. Like, I don't want it so much. My boss wants it. If I don't do it, he will fire me. So It's not my choice, not my decision. Like I have to. In some situations, I have to and I must, very similar. But in this kind of situation, you see that there is a boss who wants it. That is the difference. There is a pressure by somebody else. I have to learn English because my parents want it. I don't want it, but my father wants it. It's not my choice. That is the difference. There is a pressure here. Here, it's usually your choice, your decision, all right? So I must do it. I have to do it. It's like you don't want it so much, okay? So that is the difference between must and have to. There is a pressure by somebody. So the next one, let's talk about negative form of the same verbs. So we have must, we will have mustn't, and the same for have to. So mustn't, let me write it like that. Mustn't. When we say mustn't, it means prohibition. So, prohibition. You can translate what does it mean, but I will try to explain to you. When we say mustn't, it is about prohibition. You mustn't do it. It's forbidden. It's kind of a rule, right? For example, you mustn't smoke here. You mustn't smoke here. Do you feel it? It's kind of a rule. You mustn't smoke here. You mustn't smoke in public places. You remember it from our previous lesson. You mustn't touch the paintings in the museum. It's forbidden. You mustn't do it. So here you see it is prohibition. You mustn't smoke. Now let's talk about the negative form of the verb have to. So I will clean this and like that. So we have here, I have to wear a uniform, right? This is a positive sentence. So now we have don't have to or doesn't have to. Don't have to and our verb, or if it's he, she, it, we say doesn't have to. So we use this negative construction of the verb have to when we talk about absence of necessity. Let me write it for you. Absence of necessity. So you can translate the word necessity. Absence, it means no. Like no necessity. You don't need to do it. There is no point, right? The example is, I don't have to bring my books because I have a test tomorrow. So, I don't have to bring my books because I have a test tomorrow. So, you see, I don't have to bring. I don't have to bring my books. So, actually, if you translate it in Turkish, prohibition means no, yasak. Here, absence of necessity. The translation is close to gerek yok. No need. absence of necessity. I don't have to bring my books. She doesn't have to bring her books because she has a test, right? We don't have to do our homework. Tomorrow is Sunday, right? So, mustn't, don't have to, doesn't have to. Don't confuse, please, the meanings. Here you have obligation and the pressure. Here you have just obligation. Here you have prohibition. And here you have absence of necessity. No necessity. Now look at the board one more time. All right? You can make your own sentences to make it like more natural, like to practice the usage of these verbs, and everything will be great. Now, I will give you one more modal verb with a negative form. So we have must, mustn't, have to, don't have to, doesn't have to. You feel the difference between them, right? Obligation with pressure. So now I will give you one more modal verb. It is need. Need. So let me clean this sentence. All right? So I will do like that. So the modal verb need. Need. So we use modal verb when we talk about necessity. Need when we talk about necessity. You know the word necessary, the adjective. Necessity is the same meaning, but this is noun. Necessity. For example, I need to go home now. I need to go home now. I need to go home now. I need to go home now because my mom is waiting for me. So this is necessity. I need to do it. I need to call him. I need to buy some bread. It's necessary for me, right? I need to do something. So here you use actually the preposition to. So I need to go. Now let's talk about the negative form. Don't need to. Don't need to. Or if it's he, she, it, we say doesn't need to. Right? So, and when we have negative construction, the meaning is absence of necessity. The same like don't have to. Let me write it. Absence of necessity. Like the sentence. You don't need to do this exercise. You don't need to do this exercise. So we have you don't need to do this exercise, right? So you see absence of necessity. Absence of necessity. It means gerek yok. So you don't have to come to school tomorrow. It's Sunday. You don't need to come to school tomorrow. It's Sunday. Actually, the meaning is the same, okay? Absence of necessity. It's not necessary. No problem. You don't need to do this exercise. You don't have to do this exercise. This is the same meaning, right? But with a positive form of have to, you have the meaning of obligation. All right? So, we have must, mustn't, have to, don't have to, doesn't have to, and need, don't need, doesn't need. Plus, the thing that you have to remember, you have to understand the difference. What does it mean I must learn? What does it mean I have to learn? Here we have some pressure, okay? Plus, negative form, the meaning is different. It's not about obligation. It means like not necessary. Next, need, necessity. Negative form of the modal verb need also. It's not necessary. Kind of the same, right? But feel the difference between must and have to. So now your task is to make one sentence for each modal verb. So one sentence with must, one sentence with have to, okay? One sentence with mustn't, one sentence with don't have to, one sentence with need, and one sentence with don't need or doesn't need. So in total you will have 6 sentences, all right? 3 positive sentences, 3 negative sentences. Try to follow the rules. You have to talk about obligation, okay, use must or have to. Necessity, okay, need. Prohibition, mustn't. Absence of necessity, don't have to, or maybe don't need to, and so on. So 6 sentences with your connected with your own real life, all right? So you write it, read it, say it, okay? Try to memorize it. So look at the board one more time. I hope everything was easy to understand. So brush it up, make your sentences, and we will see you in our next lesson. Take care and bye.